Hi, this is Bill or William from Nobel Neighbors. I was driving past a building on North in Karlov, and I saw that it's owned by Lucha.
Yes, that is our future office building.
Yeah, you're coming to the district while moving further west.
We're moving further west. Yeah, we are wildly out of space where we currently are.
I know, you're just a storefront, right?
Yeah, it used to be a clinic of some sort, like a pharmacy or something. So when my favorite is that when there was rioting over the summer in that area, a couple of the neighbors, that storefront was broken into, and a couple of the neighbors reported it was because some people thought that maybe we were a dispensary. The building's empty. There's nothing in the building. And so
what address is that?
I'm sorry?
What address is that?
4054 West North Avenue. So it's the corner of Karlov and North Avenue. So we have that building there, and then like the little parking lot behind it on Karlov.
And where are you now?
We're on the 3500 block of North Avenue. So we're on the same block as La Casa Norte. So if you can picture their big new building on that block, we're like 3 doors down.
Hello, this is Venus Jackson from Nobel Neighbor. I'm in with Bill.
Hi, Venus.
Good afternoon to all. This is Roberto Maldonado. By the way, there used to be a bank years ago, Lincoln Savings, before it became the clinic.
All right, everybody. I'm going to pull up my presentation and get started, if it's all right with everybody else.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, this is Venus Jackson from Nobel Neighbor, program coordinator, and the young lady that's talking about her business. I would like to come and meet her, and so the community can know about her business. We can tell them about it.
Sure, always happy to have folks learn more about Lucha.
Oh, okay.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the North Ave Roundtable for this new year. Just trying to make sure I have everything sorted the best way I can. Okay, so anyway, a pretty decently packed agenda today. We'll go with some quick department updates, one on the NOF program, which my colleague will present, and then a quick maybe quarter minute update from you, Nadia, to see how things are there. And then we'll kind of go into an update for the RFP. I don't want to bury the lead here. We do have consultants that just got brought on board as of Saturday. So, we should be kicking off into high gear next week. And I'll get more into that in detail as we go on. But again, I didn't want to bury the lead with that. So we'll kind of just talk about kind of our opportunity sites and our priorities as you guys have all discussed both here and elsewhere. And I think that should probably fill the hour. And if not, we can talk about whatever else we want to. Again, thanks for everybody who's here today and who's introduced themselves and otherwise joining us. So without further ado, Sophia, do you want to just give us your update on NOF?
Great, thanks, Mike, and hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just want to finally come back to everyone and talk about the NOF program. As you might recall, last year in the fall, we were really pushing that, hey, folks need to know that our application round is coming up. If there are projects that you're aware of, or please apply. The application closed early November, and we have been busy reviewing applications and looking at all the information that we have at our disposal. And the announcement just came out on Friday. So if you want to go to Mike, the next slide, 6, this is just a quick review of what happened in this last round. In total, we had over 2,000 instances where someone took our quick 7-question project readiness quiz to see if they had done enough prep work to hopefully submit a decent application. In terms of actual applications submitted, we had just under 400 applications submitted. That is across the entire NOF program. And you can see we slowly started narrowing it down to the final 30, which were announced again by Mayor Lightfoot on Friday. Next slide. Here you're going to see a little bit of who was selected and how many applications we received by community area. So you can see that, you know, Southwest did pretty well in terms of the number of applications submitted, as well as in terms of the number of projects that were selected. And I'm sorry, not Southwest, the West Side. So, you know, if there's any questions about this later on, happy to go into more details, but this is just a quick view of where we're at in terms of what we received and what got chosen. Next slide. And a quick kind of snapshot view of the 30 that were selected. The 30 were selected over a cross of 16 different wards. And if you look on the west side here, a total of 84 applications, 8 of which were selected. We were able to select roughly the same number of projects in each area of the city. In terms of the types of corridors, it was slightly weighted towards the Invest Southwest corridors, which is what we had wanted. But we do include projects in both the eligible and the priority corridors that are outside of the Invest Southwest corridor. In total, based on what the applications gave us, we're looking at a total investment of $9.5 million, and the grant that we are anticipating giving out total for this round is 5.6. And something that is actually really exciting for us this round is 22 of our finalists are actually residents of the NOF area. So that is the highest we have seen yet for the NOF program, and that has to do with the competitiveness. Now that I think the residents and the local business owners are really hearing about the program, they're able to take part of it in it. So next slide. In terms of the types of businesses, we continue our trend. Majority of our grantees are business establishments, food establishments. So restaurants, coffee shops, grocery stores, followed by apparel and other types of retail stores. Again, that has been the trend since the program started. We don't see that changing anytime soon. Next slide. So this is the full list of all 30. And the projects that were on the west side, you can see are down in the bottom in purple.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Is it 5.6 across the 30 organizations?
Yes, 5.6 anticipated grant across all 30 finalists.
All 30 finalists.
That's right.
So the average grant per organization, does it carry more weight depending on what it is and what it's for and what neighborhoods they're in? And what is the size of that grant? 200.
Yeah, so our grants vary. We use a formula to calculate how much of their total project cost we can cover. One thing to recall is we are talking about just the small grants track for NOF. So these are all applicants that are seeking $250,000 or less. I think the lowest grant amount on a project basis that we had in this round was maybe $40,000. And of course, the max that anyone can get is $250,000. The average, which I don't think really says a lot because we do have such a diverse group of projects, is like 190. So across the 30, I think the average was about 190. And then, so this last slide is just a quick snapshot of where the NOF small grants track is working in the West region. So you can see it's we've got the completed projects. We've got, a handful, which we're really happy about. We have a lot that are still under construction. So those are the ones that are, still working toward to get to the finish line. We still have 5 from the first round of 2020 who have not been able to secure their commitment letter yet because they haven't finalized their project scope. We're still working with them. And then we've got the 8 new ones that were just announced on Friday. In total, we've got 10 of the projects are in West Southwest Corridor located. So that's, again, just a more of a geographical snapshot to show all the different projects that we're supporting.
And Sophia, I'm just gonna focus this on this one now. I know you have other ones exampled here, but
Yep.
that's all right. Yeah.
So yeah, so this is Casa Coffee. This is a coffee shop, and they're moving into that space that currently says for lease and is vacant. So they are on the North Avenue corridor.
So Bill, to answer your question in the chat, this is the organization that got selected in the latest round on the North Avenue corridor.
It says they're from Lawndale. They're like, are they from like Little Village? Is that what it is? Build
This
out
is a
for
brand new
family.
business. This is a brand new business.
I think that may be a typo on the slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the
Oh,
restaurant's
yeah.
in a. Sorry, I'll change that.
Sorry.
For you. Yeah.
And so the 30, the total project cost is 308. Let's just give me an idea what the grant, you're gonna be granting them 231,000 and they have to match up the difference?
That's right. And these are all still anticipated. So this is information. So the 308 is what they provided on their application. And the 231 is what we were able to come to based on the details they gave us and based on the our grant formula. So
And very quickly, is this to redo the interior of the coffee shop and everything else and bring it up to par? Or is it to buy the building where the coffee shop would be?
that's a great question. I will need to double check, but I believe it's a lease. I do not believe it includes
So
equity.
you are providing grants to the Cs as well?
The window says a lease.
I'm sorry.
Yes, no,
The window on the store says for lease.
yes, I know.
So they
Yeah.
probably did lease, yeah.
I just didn't know
Yes,
that.
you do not have to be the property owner in order to get a grant.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, and this one, so if you take the 231 divided by 308, it's a 75% calculation. So our base grant for the NOF small grant track is 50%, and then they can increase it if they are a local resident or if they commit to hiring locally once the project is completed. So for this, and if they say they can take advantage of both, they can get up to 100% or the 250,000, max. So in this case, they are anticipating getting one of the 2 bonuses. I'd have to look it up, whether it's local hiring or whether it's local residency. That's pretty much it for me.
Thanks, Sophia.
Yeah.
Any questions or follow-up? Feel free to ask now, but otherwise we can move on.
Can I ask one question? How many
Yes.
of those went to Latinos, please? Can you tell me?
I'd have to look it up. We did have, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can minimize my screen and look it up. I should have it ready. I want to say it was 10%. Let me get back to Mike on that and share that.
Okay.
Do have a decent contingent of Latino businesses. We'd love to see more. We continue to really be challenged with getting applications in from Latino businesses and entrepreneurs. So
Yeah,
Miss-
this is
Miss-
Roberto Maldonado. Can you please tell me how many in the North Avenue corridor the applicants and grantees are Latinos? I think that 100% of the
Okay.
few.
Yeah, let me take a look at that because that would require us to go into our sheet and look that up. So Latinos in the North Avenue corridor. And yes, Casa Coffee is Latino. Yes.
Yeah, and this is Jim Harbin and Ms. Salazar and Alderman. we are going to reopen this NOF application again in early March. And we need all the help we can get in order to make sure that the Latinx community understands that this program is out there, that it's available, and that they are welcome and encouraged to participate, because those numbers are just way too low. We need to bring those numbers up, and we need to help. So any suggestions, Alderman, any suggestions, Ms. Salazar, that you guys can provide in order to help us get the word out before this next round, which is literally about a month away now.
Well, I think that it's important that the city will be open to technical professional services to some of these organizations and or business owners that do not even know how to navigate the grant processing portals. And sometimes it's just not knowing that it's there for them to apply.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
that's why we have the corridor manager. And so I'm sure that, I have heard from Nadia on that they are aggressively visiting all the targeted businesses along the corridor.
Yeah, and then part of the role of the manager is to improve that part of communication of all the resources. So one thing I'm going to share is, and we see this as part of our business programs, especially SBDC and the NBDC, is that the Latino community, it's not ready to apply for these things because they're lacking skills to do it a lot of the times. So that's something that we have to work on. So it's not only communication, but it's also assisting them on the technical part. And the other problem, they sometimes they don't have their information organized in a way that they can present it. So it's kind of like a hard process. I mean, of course, we are going to provide more help and see how we can, increase those numbers. But there are some challenges that we have to take care of before they can even apply.
Nadia, can you answer this question? Do you have, based upon the grant you received to be the program manager, do you have the ability to invest in the capacity of those potential businesses that could apply for this type of grant?
We are actually trying to do it through our other programs, the SBDC and the NBDC, because the grant was mostly used for payroll, and there's going to be a website developed. So we are using the website as a means of communication as well. And another thing is that we are in the process of developing the whole work plan. It's due by the end of this month. Remember, this just started in November, so we still don't even have the contract. So we're still working on that part, but the plan for this year is to develop that website and then have the businesses use that website as a way of communicating and getting information about the North Avenue corridor specifically. So it would obviously refer to the city's website, but hopefully, it would have to be probably in English and Spanish. And then they would have to register so they can get information automatically. And I believe that with Main Street America, they're working on some type of system via text to do surveys and stuff. So my idea is to obviously try to use their system so then we can also send out information via text as well. So all of that requires to get all the, the right information, contact information from all of the businesses on North Avenue, which we are currently working on the final directory of businesses.
May I say something? Hi, this is Bill from Nobel Neighbors. I just want to mention we do have a local chamber of commerce that has a directory already of Latino businesses along North Avenue, Grand Avenue, Armitage Avenue, the Northwest Connection Chamber of Commerce. Pete's on the call right now. There's existing infrastructure. We need to merge that infrastructure with the North Avenue corridor. So we can get this, we can get our existing Latino businesses and others that want to do business on North Avenue. We could get them right in the pipeline because of that. Chamber of Commerce already exists.
Right. The only thing is that, and you know, like, and that's why I think like last week I sent an email with some new information. I think it was a grant, and I asked for you guys to share it. Now, the thing is, like, I don't know if the Chamber of Commerce will be willing to share that information with us, because, you know, it's kind of like their work to have that information as a list. So, I mean, if you guys want to share that information, great, because then we can put it into the contact information that Main America is going to have to enable to share, you know, the news via text. So that's the thing. I know that Chambers of Commerce, they do have that. They have that information. They have membership, and obviously it's confidential information for them. So if they're willing to share it with us, great.
I just want to add something else. So in previous rounds for NOF, those that were not selected were sent an email saying, unfortunately, you weren't selected. Please work with a local community partner organization who can give you some coaching and planning resources, and we welcome them to reapply. This time, we're actually doing something different. So rather than just telling them to contact their, you know, local community organization, we actually created a referral form and said, if you are interested in getting referred to a community organization, please fill out this form. So I think it was important because it gave them an immediate kind of ownership and ability to have an action, a response. And we are going to keep it open for a little bit. We're going to see how many people actively say, yes, please connect us. And these are all individuals that are giving us permission to share their contact information. So that is something that is definitely coming down the pipe. And we, you know, interesting for us to see just how many of the applicants who weren't selected do kind of take that next step of kind of, you know, self-identifying and saying, yes, I want help. Please help connect me with a community partner. So that is, so that's something for this last round. I wanted to go back real quick. I was able to pull up the numbers for the applications and the grantees. So out of the 30 finalists, 7 of them self-identified as Latino or Hispanic. So 7 out of 30 is 23%. That's actually the highest we've had since this program was started. So that is great. To give you an idea of why Jim said we need more applications, in total, we had 23 applicants self-identify as Hispanic or Latino, 23 across the entire NOF area. Compare that to 235. So 23 versus 235 who self-identified as African American. That's kind of the discrepancy that we're seeing in terms of the volume of applications that are coming in.
Can I get the criteria of who meets the NOF? What is it? Well, how are the dollars? Where can I read that in your website?
Yeah, so our website's easy to remember. It's chicago.gov/NOF.
NOF, okay.
NOF, yeah, there's tons of information there.
So you don't need a letter of intent or anything like that. All you need to do is apply, go directly to the application and apply for the next round, which will be open, you said in March?
Yes, our next round we anticipate opening in March. It is a very competitive program, so they need to substantiate their project by showing us the research or the planning that they have done. We have resources for applicants on our website, and we're always looking to add more to it. So definitely take a look at the website. I'll put my email address in the chat. And if there are any questions or you have any resources that you think would be helpful to share with applicants, just hit me up and we can, you know, work to get the word out.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks, Sophia. And Nadia, it feels like through this discussion we've sort of touched on a little bit of the what the corridor manager's work, upcoming work is, and what's kind of imperative. But I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to share with that before maybe we move on to the RFP.
Well, yes. I mean, we had our internal meeting last week, and so we were able to kind of have a list of the elements that we would like to see, in the building, and then how we can work on all of these wishes that we would like to have. And then I don't know if you saw the email I sent you with some of the questions.
Yeah, so let's jump into the RFP then. Does that sound good, everybody? Yeah. So as I said in the start, we've got consultants selected for the North Avenue Corridor RFP. Came in just last week, over the weekend. Thank you very much for Gerardo, of my supervisor and leader of our West Region, de facto, I should say, at this point, because he's for helping organize that and doing all that work. So the two firms that we're going to be working with us currently are BKL and Focus Group Architects. We're still in the process of kind of fleshing out that team a little bit more. But this week I'll be connecting with them and our CCAC coordinator to kind of work out the details of the schedule and how we're going to be rolling out our engagement and your engagement with this process in the upcoming month. Our goal is to have a kickoff meeting next week and to release an RFP in March. It's probably mid to the end of March.
Which consultants again? Can you tell me the names of the consultants again?
You see them on the screen there, hopefully. BKL and Focus, they're architectural and design firms. I'm going to actually go through some of their work just so you guys have a representative sample of some of their work that they've. Good.
And Mike, but before you get into that, if I could just kind of refresh everyone a little bit on the relationship. So good afternoon, everyone. Gerardo Garcia here. Just to give you guys a sense, obviously we've done these RFPs on other corridors throughout the city. And we're working in partnership with the Chicago Central Area Committee, which is, a nonprofit kind of membership group of professional firms, many in real estate development. And CCAC is leveraging their membership to provide these development and design services, essentially pro bono. So both BKL, who's an architecture firm, and Focus Development are working pro bono. And they'll probably bring on some other professionals to backfill the team to provide a development framework for these RFPs. And as part of that, they're also essentially committing to not respond to this RFP, right? So they can't respond to anywhere where they've done work, kind of to keep things fair for others. But just wanted to kind of reinforce that, because that is a critical kind of aspect of this, is that all of these folks are stepping up and really doing this work at no cost to the city and in pretty expedited timeline. So with that, Mike, I think it is worth kind of going through some of the work for folks, and then we can take some questions. And the big kind of moment that we're working toward, and obviously we can modify these for each community, but sometime in February, we usually, at the midpoint or a little before the midpoint, we'll have a community visioning workshop where we'll bring everyone to the table and define a vision for the site or sites. I think there's been a lot of discussion on North Avenue, and we have a good sense of what folks would prefer here. And then the team kind of goes back and we'll engage with folks both through this roundtable and individually throughout the month of February and March, with the goal of releasing an RFP at the end of March. Given where we're starting right now, we would have liked to have started a little earlier. That could go into the beginning of April, but certainly not any later than that. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, thanks for that background. I appreciate it, Roberto. So just to give you a little sense of BKL's work, they have a pretty expansive catalog. They've done a lot of the towers in downtown Chicago, a lot you see in Lakeshore East and the Wolf Point West Tower. If those ring any bells, and Lakeshore East, the non-Genie Gang stuff, they've been instrumental with. So I tried to pick some of the developments that they did that were more at a neighborhood scale and community scale. And here's one on Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago. They did work around the Lathrop home redevelopment, which I don't know if anyone's ever been by there on Diversity and Clybourne, but I think it's really, really, really nice restoration, and it certainly will lend itself well in the visioning process for what could the Pioneer Bank could become. And here's a kind of a mid-rise project in Evanston. Again, they're a multinational architectural firm, so they bring a lot of experience and design expertise, and I think they have a wide variety of really interesting projects. Again, try to focus on some of the smaller scale ones.
I always say that there's nothing for free. Always say that there's nothing for free. I'm sure that they're doing this pro bono, and I'm happy that you guys have identified a company of that stature, but I also like to know how they are themselves doing to make sure that their staff and their consultants and their designers and their architects reflect the minority component.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that is certainly something that we've strived for in the other corridors. So we want, representation is a big part of the work that we're trying to do with Invest Southwest with the professionals that we bring to the table here. And so BKO actually has a couple of principals who kind of are reflective of the communities that we're trying to work in Invest Southwest and across the city. And so I know they'll certainly be leading this effort for the firm. And to your point, you're right. I mean, there's definitely benefit in these firms in terms of marketing, et cetera, that they get out of this. So, but it's a pretty large effort. In fact, we asked CCAC to kind of quantify this for some of the other corridors. And in terms of consultant hours, each of these kind of corridor development frameworks and the assistance that they provide for the RFPs is in the ballpark of about $100,000 of essentially pro bono services that the city is and the communities are receiving through the Central Area Committee.
Just moving on a bit, I won't linger too much longer on some of Focus's work. This is a kind of like a studio apartment project in California. A 5-story building could fit the scale of that vacant parcel quite nicely. Here's another apartment tower, a little more contemporary, traditional, I would say, design. And here's one out in Wheaton. It's again not a Chicago-based, but more suburban in character. Certainly, would like to see better ground floor here in Chicago than what's shown here, but at least it does have some references to the building next door, which I think we'd want to, I think from a design perspective, is something that you'd want to have echoes to when we're thinking of the Pioneer Bank building and all the beauty that can be translated to the neighborhood property to the north. And just again, I just want to give this a brief overview again, just to go through. I think we talked about this last time, but again, we're what the ultimate goal is to reactivate these neighborhoods and really create some quality of life amenities. We're taking a more active hand in doing this. We're not just kind of giving them a list of properties and site characteristics. We together are going to define that vision and give it to the development community and ask for their best shot to give it back to us, right? So if they deliver on that, then we can deliver on a site for them to redevelop and hopefully make the community stronger and better. But of course, it's their design in the end. But we're going to shape that vision through this visioning process of these alternatives and these massings and what Gerardo had spoken to about that workshop that we hope to complete sometime in mid to late February. And just kind of stealing a kind of a timeline we had from a previous thing, but kind of compressing it down for just our purposes. Roughly, this is very speculative, but this is kind of where we want to be at timeline-wise with our RFP, with the March release. Moving out of Q1 to get the response delivered. I could probably move that up into Q2 a little bit, but we want to keep this as tight as possible because we want to get these responses back to you as soon as we can, so that we can hopefully select somebody, by the end of the summer, if not sooner. So, with that, we're looking at really two sites, or really, there's one preferred site. There's this Pioneer Bank building, and I know Nadia, you had asked some questions of me, which I have here on my phone, so I can reference them as we go. But I know one of them was the size and square foot of the building, and so I can put that up here on the screen. So from there, I would really want to know, from your discussions as a community, what your thoughts have been in the last month.
Okay, so, I mean, one of the things is that, for Alderman Maldonado, I mean, one of his preferences is to have the Latino Theater Alliance development on the first floor. So I know Myrna has some doubts about that regarding the fact that the building is a historical landmark. So I know Maldonado had made some comments about that could be worked out. So I don't know if you have any information about that.
Well, I briefly spoke with the Commissioner Cox, and he understands that we need to do away with the landmark status inside the building, that is workable, so that we can potentially bring something in there. Otherwise, the ability to utilize that first floor is going to be very, very limited. And that was a very brief conversation I had with the commissioner last year.
Yeah,
and he understood very clearly.
May I say something? This is William Bill from the Nobel Neighbors.
Please.
I just want to say in regards to the historical landmark piece, I was involved, as well as residents involved, in getting that building as well as the main hall landmarked. So we are opposed to having that taken away. Just wanted to state that for the record.
That's fine, Bill. And I know that you need to say that, but at the end of the day, what we all should be thinking about collectively, what's the best use for that facility inside, because in the absence that we can find the ability to utilize that in the best effective way, sending the clear message that this is our Latino district space, and then it's a fruitless effort. And so I understand your position. I'm going to keep pushing what I think is best for what we want to accomplish in that area as an anchor that will send the right message on the revitalization.
Right. My thing is not to push away any kind of the collective thoughts that we have, but more so that architecture and buildings are our collective heritage, as well as the main building is trashed, by the way. So that is another thing that we have to think about, that given the fact that it is historically landmarked, but also the fact that scrappers came in and took apart much of that historic, the elements of that. So, I mean, I think we should continue discussing.
I know that I have to travel to Puerto Rico, but I had hoped to get into that building with the architect that has helped us put together a whole bunch of renderings for buildings that's been in consideration for the last 3 years. As I had a conversation with Bill. Bill knows that we're looking at approximately 26,000 square footage. How that would work for us in regards to that building. It's yet to be seen, and I have to just get in there, do a walkthrough, and bring in a couple of my board members and our architect in order just to have a more concise and assess the property itself to see if it's doable or not before going forward. Because we've had
That, to me, that's great. Myrna, the sooner you can do that, the better. I don't want, the way that you come across, I feel that we're basically forcing you to come in there, and I don't want
no. I'm in no way, because, no, Roberto, para nada. No, don't think that way. In fact, I talked to Bill. We've had conversations with that. I talked to Mike. These are individual calls that we have had and conversations, and I know that you welcome us with open arms, because we've been in conversations with you for the last 3 years as well. And you know what it is that we are aiming. But I think in order to not to waste your time or our time in wanting to be part of this group, and what is usable for us and what we can potentially do, there's many other things that we need to take into consideration. Are we able to purchase that property? Are we going to purchase the property and then lease it out to a couple of the organizations that are aiming to be part of this initiative? I have no idea.
Well,
there's no way.
Remember, the acquisition involves, also the development of the affordable housing in the back. So how realistic it is for your organization to contemplate to buy that building, which also going to be attached to the commitment to develop the property in the back as affordable housing. So that's something that you have to take on with your board members. I can meet with you and your board members. The sooner the better, or you have to make your own decision so that we can then go to any plan B that we may have. Okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing to consider here is that as we go through this process, we will have a development consultant. So bringing not only developer's perspective in terms of feasibility, but also market analysis, cost per square foot of rents, and assuming maybe a sale. And so I think these are all scenarios that these folks can help us figure out in terms of what is feasible and likely, and would lead to the goal that everyone has here of the redevelopment of this site, by providing affordable housing and a cultural space. And so, I think there's still many conversations to be had to kind of work through all of those details, and to see, who the likely partners are, and how this, how this site can be revitalized, but also pencil out for someone that's going to come in and redevelop it.
And just speaking to the idea of a walkthrough and floor plans, I reached out to the current owner to see if both those were, after seeing this question, both those were feasible. And when I hear back, we'll let you know.
The walkthrough you're talking about?
Well, walkthrough, and if they had any like floor, plans or schematics or anything that is shareable. Certainly, getting inside the building to make an assessment is key for the development consultant.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Doing good.
Sorry, I don't know who's talking now.
Okay.
I guess I have you to mute.
Okay, so I just want to read some of the, and then I can send a document that has this information.
Meeting right now. Yeah.
I just want to read some of the elements that the different stakeholders would like to see, and of course, as you say, a lot of thinking and planning needs to be done to see what it's doable and what makes sense as well. So in terms of the Latino Theater Alliance, they would like to see a multicultural center for the arts, and culture, and at least 2 theaters, a place for, where you could have dance concerts, and also a rehearsal space, an artist residency, like an incubator, and I mentioned all the 2 theaters. Mobile neighbors would like to have Originally, they wanted the library in the main floor of the bank. Alderman Maldonado prefers to have the library in the commercial space of the housing development. So based on that, they would like to see a co-working space in the other levels, and community collaboration spaces for non-for-profits. They also wanted to see multiple theater spaces, workshops, and studios. And an empowerment center serving the social services and business development needs of the community. And in the roof, possibly an outdoor public park. And that goes along with what PRCC had suggested as well. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Nadia.
Yeah. And then in terms of PRCC, well, they were looking into possibly a business incubator or affordable co-working spaces. Again, we would like to see an indoor playground that doesn't have a cost for families to use. Computer lab for community members to use and get trained on computer literacy and professional development. We think that it would be nice to see a North Avenue Corridor Information Center over there that would provide information about tourism, social services, public services in the area, and will be kind of in charge of the corridor marketing. And again, the Empowerment Center for Adult and Youth, the community space for celebration, banquets, community meetings, cultural events, which kind of goes along with the multi-central arts culture, multicultural center of the Latino Theater Alliance. We had an arts incubator, and basically we would like to see access to healthy food restaurants, which can be linked to education on healthy eating, which is it's needed in the community, because we know that the incidence of critical illnesses like diabetes and heart disease and other critical illnesses is high, not only in the Latinos but also in the African American community.
Nadia, is that for that building in particular, or that's for the little district?
It's in general, and these are just ideas.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, we know that it's a lot, but then what is at some point, we need to reduce it to what makes sense, and then what can be together. Because a lot of times, depending on the size, then you have to say, well, okay, I can have this, but I cannot have this. But we do want to also target the needs that we have seen in the community in terms of professional development and business development, that the community doesn't have the skills. So, like having those type of resources available in that corner would make a difference for the community as well.
I asked before if anybody is familiar with the center on Hosted that is connected to a Whole Foods. Is anybody familiar with that center on Hosted? You are? Are you familiar with their theater, their offices, rehearsal space? And then they have a sort of like what you said about the rooftop. They have a rooftop for events that is amazing, amazing. So that is a wonderful venue that's in the Boys Town area, and I think something like that for that particular building would be ideal.
And I do want to say that these are elements that we dreamed up, that the community, like from our perspective, Nobel Neighbors, it's like we've consulted community members when we have said that we envision it as a library. We envision the Pioneer Bank, particularly the main hall, as more of a culture, a civic space, a public space that's for financing as well as just the opportunity for the residents, all residents, to have that space. So we haven't completely figured out where we want things, but I'm think we're going to get that through the consultant.
Yeah. So like, I'm imagining that as well. I mean, at some point, these priorities and preferences will need to be ranked and vetted. But ultimately, if we say, look at there's a break it down, like you said, there's a strong desire, an overwhelming desire to have like a sort of Latino hub here, and you have what was a hub of commerce and kind of change that around into a hub of community. And in the the first floor and the mezzanine levels, like what sort of uses could fit in that space? How much would it cost to renovate that space? Because ultimately, those are community uses, right? So there's an economics in play in terms of the economics in play in terms of like how much that will cost and who will operate it. And and that is one of the first conversations that I'd like to have with the consultant team, is sort of like starting from that point. How do we build out a development around that idea?
And if I could just add, Mike, I think it's great that folks are starting to think about this. I think of all of the corridors, this is the first community where we do have a laundry list. Like, people have been talking about it in advance and throwing ideas out there. And I think that's okay. And that's really helpful to the process. And that's exactly what the process is designed to do, is to prioritize and identify and prioritize all of these community desires, and then test them against market realities and feasibility. And I think if I could suggest that folks on the line, go to DPD's website and check out the RFPs and even the responses for Austin for the Laramie State Bank building. Very similar building, very similar situation with a vacant land next to it, privately owned. And I think that could really serve as a model for what we're trying to accomplish here. And you'll see in that RFP document the uses and the community desires and the kind of development framework that was established for that site, but also for the larger corridor. And so I think that's one thing that we shouldn't lose sight of, is that all of these things maybe necessarily don't have to happen at the Pioneer Bank, and we may not have the resources to accomplish everything on every site right away, but to have that framework in place is an invaluable tool, in our opinion, for the community as development comes online, as more resources come online, to essentially think about this as a phased approach. So really quickly, and then I'll stop. But for example, on Chicago Avenue in Austin, we identified 10 potential opportunity sites for a number of reasons and characteristics. We honed in on 3, and then we RFP'd 1 because that's honestly what we could afford. But there are still 9 other sites that potentially could be thought of for redevelopment in the future, and within this context of community desires. And what we are receiving for the Laramie State bank building are all, a good amount of those community desires are being met in this former building. So just wanted to throw that out there and throw it out there as a resource as we kind of embark on this process.
I want to say,
how much did that bank? Excuse me, Bill. How
I have
much?
to go, but I just want to say one thing because I have to leave right now. I'll just make it very quick. This is for all of us stakeholders on the call. And this is piggybacking off Gerardo and talking to Mike. The RFP process, hopefully you'll explain it after I get off. But I think for us and the stakeholders, and we want to have the ability to shape that RFP so that our community, our residents get what they desire in these properties. Second of all, and this for the stakeholders, back me up on this, that we would like to have the veto power on the language of the RFP, because If the RFP goes out, that determines which developers we get, that determines the style or that they're going to put in the architecture. So I think that we would like to have more community control in that RFP process and the RFP language. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and
I
I'll just say,
think
Bill,
Bill,
as you're
we have
signing
said that
off,
from the very beginning.
yeah,
And we've been very, very forceful. And to the extent that we stayed together on this, on whatever we want to see in this building, you know, we will accomplish that. The one thing we don't want, the rest of the stakeholders and myself, is to this opportunity to become a grab and takeover by interests that do not have the Latino community at heart in the way that we see it here.
We're all in one accord with that. I think that's what we need to put in the language of the RFP.
yeah, and Bill and Alderman, Bill, I really, you know, I think the Austin RFP, I mean, take a look at all of them, but this process is designed to do just that, honestly. I mean, community wealth building is a criteria, and we talk about local partnerships, not just in contracting and professional services, but actual ownership. And so, you know, everything that everyone is outlining here is really what this process is meant to do. In fact, we have all of the development proposals present to the community, and we help the community essentially help us prioritize for the selection process. So really aiming for a level of transparency that we haven't seen through this process in the past in the city, certainly.
And whatever you miss out, Bill, I will fill you in later on this evening.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Bill.
You too. Thank you.
Real quickly, does anybody know, Roberto, do you know how much they're asking for that bank and the land?
I think that Mike is holding that very close to his chest.
Mike?
I
think it would be great to know what is the low end, their asking price, the negotiable.
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking you. Let's ask Mike if he's willing to share any information.
I could chime in on that. I think our position is that we should do an appraisal and an independent appraisal and figure out how much the building is land is worth, you know, essentially create this development framework around that.
Okay.
And around fair market value, obviously. So I think we have to go through that process to be able to answer the question.
Has there been have they thrown out a price?
We to the extent that we can, we do not want the owner of the property to dictate the price to the city.
Okay.
I think that's really important. You know, that they have, you know, they have a decent amount of leverage, but you know, we do have ours as well. And until we
because the city will buy the property, then is that what it is, and then lease it out to the various?
No, I don't think it'd be tremendously risky for the city to ever acquire this property, because if a development deal were to fall through, then we would be stuck holding on to it, and we do not have the means to maintain it. Ideally, in the situation, you know, we are the vetting agency for the private developer who's going to come in and redevelop it, and the guarantee that private developer is going to deliver on the promises they make as far as the response to the RFP and what's included in the RFP response that dictates those promises.
Well, so Mike,
but just one thing, as far as, you know, acquisition costs for the property, the city can subsidize those costs, and likely will. But you know, that's as far as we probably want.
we just want transparency here, that's all.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
When we talk about transparency, I don't want to, you know, to be surprised at a later time, and just so that I know what's the leverage here, what are we looking at in terms of, you know, acquisition cost.
What we're hoping to do is establish a letter of interest or intent with the property owner that kind of outlines those terms. And at this point, because it is privately controlled, that's kind of the most that we can do, and we think that's pretty good, and can give some certainty to whoever is responding to the RFP, that they can expect to pay a fair market value for the property. And again, with the city resources that we expect to kind of bring to the table, acquisition is something that we could underwrite.
So other than eminent domain, what leverage do you have over the owner? I mean, this is still America, and people own property and they have a right to do with what they want with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And we're engaging on this because the property owner has signaled an interest in working with us and the community in this process. So, again, the letter of intent is, something we're working through right now. And that's probably the most certainty that we can provide, or that we can get even ourselves at this phase, which is, fair. I think in any other real estate transaction, that's kind of where you start from.
Well, and Paul, I mean, I say to the developer, you have this property that you don't know how to dispose of. We're going to go through a process and deliver proposals to your door, basically saying, community vetted, community approved, financeable proposals. We're basically doing their legwork for them in order to, their marketing, their community approvals, their zoning. So,
well, we all know that we're not going to pay, and the city's not going to pay anywhere near what they think they want, but it would be good to know what they are asking for.
Thank you, Billy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw a bandy about numbers. I would say it's in the millions, but let's just leave it at that. Because until we understand what a true independent appraised value is, then it's not. I don't think it's appropriate to.
And so, when will the city do that? When will you guys do an appraisal?
Well, we can start the appraisal process now, and we can also do our appraisal likely through our consultant work as well. So, in the next coming months, we should have a firm value or a better idea of what we think a fair market value would be for this building and the properties.
I think, Billy, this is Roberto. I think that if you look at the recorder of deeds on that address, you can more or less know how much they pay for that property. So it would be from that point up.
Thank you, Alderman.
Huh?
No, thank you, Alderman.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments while we're here? I know we're over time. I don't want to keep anybody longer than they feel they want to stay. But, we are here.
I just want to mention that, we're still having the senior housing project as, site. So we have site A and B.
Yes, that's true.
We always have to close, with Paul's statement on pushing for that development. And we have said that we don't have to pick one over the other, that we could possibly and perfectly try to entertain both at the same time, which is the song I've been singing with Paul. So Paul, you can add the chorus to that song.
I like that.
More than happy to be the chorus.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. There's an opportunity to pivot, and also, I think we shouldn't, in a sense, limit ourselves. We may have to limit ourselves in terms of like how much we accomplished in the year 2021. We might, but there are like I said at the start of the call, there are at this intersection, we have 2 to 3 really valuable community assets that need help in terms of being redeveloped. And if we can achieve all 3 or 2 of them in the next few years, like what a tremendous transformation that would be. So I think we were on the same page in terms of pushing and prioritizing for that to become a reality. So I think we should wrap up, and I'm available for questions if you want to contact me via email or a phone call. And look out for an email later this week to discuss a kickoff meeting and a timeline for that.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you, Billy. Take care.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.